You guys, welcome back to my channel. Don't mind me, I look really rough right now because I just did a mile. And don't mind if I look around because I'm outside in my car and I can't just focus. Like when I hear noise, I still like look around because like they're cutting grass and I felt inspired to make this video. Well, I wanted to make it last night, but it was the middle of the night when I came up with the idea to tell my story. And I wasn't in the right mind frame to do it last night. I just knew that I wanted to record this video to help anybody. And my friend Matt inspired me as well to like go ahead and record this video because I'm like, I want to record this video, but I look really rough. Like I'm sweaty and I just got a mile in and it's just I don't look my best right now, but you have to accept me for all that I am or nothing at all. So I wanted to get on here to tell my story about how I overcame depression, suicidal thoughts, anxiety, and cutting. So this kind of goes back to my previous story from ninth grade, where I told you I moved to Georgia after living in Mississippi for like 15 years. And so when I moved to Georgia, I was so excited, for a new opportunity to meet new people. I could become this person that I always wanted to be. And instead of, just being myself, I always wanted to fit in. And so in the midst of me fitting in, it became disastrous for me and I started going through depression. I was so depressed. Like you could see the sadness in my eyes. Like when I walked around, like if you really looked at me, you could see that I was sad. And it's like what do you mean you can see the sadness? Like you know how when someone looks sad, that's how I looked every time you saw me. Like it was I was just really depressed. And it's almost like I had a look of yearning in my face, like yearning for someone to help me. Like, please just reach out your hand and help me. Like, I don't even know why I'm sad. I knew I was sad. Well, okay, I didn't know why I was sad. I was sad because I wasn't fit in. I felt like I didn't have any friends. I felt like a lame. And that's kind of where the other story came in. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it because it kind of ties in with this somewhat because that's kind of when the depression started. I was already depressed before that story, but this just heightened it because even after my previous story that I told you about, like me not minding my business, it kind of made my depression worse. And so I was just really depressed. I would go to school and just hated being there. I was literally like so depressed that I would pray to God and say, please don't wake me up in the morning. And that is really bad. I mean, I'm in ninth grade. I have my whole life ahead of me. I have my whole life ahead of me at this point, and I didn't see it that way. I just saw misery. I was just miserable. I was trying to fit in. I had anxiety. Like, are they gonna, talk about me the next day? Or are they still talking about that situation from my previous story? And I was just so anxious. I'm like, are they gonna make fun of me for what I have on? It was a constant battle for me. And I just really didn't, I was tired of dealing with it. And I got to the point that I started cutting and I cut myself like one time, and then after I did that, I still didn't feel any better. I remember cutting, and then I just broke down into like a ball of tears. That did not even help me. And the next day, it just pretty much made it worse because I came to school the next day with scars on my arm, and I was just, it was just a really bad time. And I kind of would just run from situations if you obviously from the previous story again, please go watch it. And I would just run from situations instead of like facing them head on. And that made my anxiety worse. And so after ninth grade, I started going to a private school. And I was still depressed, but it was a little bit better because part of my depression was the school that I went to, trying to fit in and be popular instead of just being myself. So 10th and 11th grade, I went to a private school. I was still really, really depressed, but I wasn't like cutting anymore. So they kind of eased the cutting. And I went to like a private Christian school, so it was Bible based. So fast forward to my senior year, I moved to here to Texas. I'm in Texas now, and my depression was like slowly getting better. It was like, okay, I'm finally at a school that I love. I still didn't necessarily fit in with everybody because like I felt like everyone in my class was like they were so mature. They were like acting like they're 30 and we were only like 18. Like they would like drink coffee and talk world affairs and that's so I still really didn't necessarily fit in, but at that point I wasn't trying to fit in anymore. It was like this is my last year of high school. I don't care anymore. So fast forward to the summer after my senior year, like the summer before, I was so indecisive about wanting like what college I wanted to go to, and I eventually went to college, but I was still depressed. It was like I was going through this vicious cycle again. And even though this I went to again a Bible-based college, and of course, within the Christian faith, they tell you to pray and to fast and talk to God, and they offer you counseling, which I necessarily didn't take counseling, but I did talk to and confide into other people about my depression. Sorry, I keep switching angles here because I'm trying to make sure the lighting is good, but the lighting's probably not going to be the best. But so I would talk to my friends about it, and I still didn't feel any better. And then after college, I only stayed in college a year because I couldn't afford college anymore, but that's a whole nother story. So I went home from college and I fell into a deep depression. I was having suicidal thoughts, but the cutting, I wasn't cutting anymore because that didn't help. I didn't know what to do. Like, I would pray, I would go to church, I would cry. And on top of my depression, my anxiety was through the roof. Like, when I tell you I had crippling anxiety, it crippled me. Like, I was scared to leave my house. And I'm like, for what? Like, why am I scared? Why you're probably asking Jasmine, why were you scared? Like I have no idea why I was scared. It was just a fear that was inside of me, like to face life. Why? I mean, I don't know why. There was like I was praying, I was crying. And during that time, I ended up reading the Bible twice. Like I read the Bible twice from Genesis to Revelation, like the King James version and the New King James version. And I was going to this church at the time, and I remember there was a guy, he came to preach, and he was very, moving his sermon. And he and it just so happened that he was, teaching a sermon on like basically depression. And at the end of his sermon, if you go to church, they have an altar call where they ask you to come down. And he said, if you've been struggling with depression, come down and let me pray for you. And I remember I had just been waiting for something like this. Like I felt like so refreshed. I felt like the message was speaking directly to me. So so when he asked us to come down, I just bawled. Like I cried and I got up from my seat. Like, and I was in the choir. I was singing at the choir during this time. And I went down there and I was just crying so hard because I finally felt like a release. I felt like I could handle anything in my life right now. And he prayed, and I can't remember the specific prayer, but I remember he laid hands on me and he prayed, and I felt peace. I felt like, the strong cold of depression, anxiety just lifted off of me in that very moment. And from that moment on, I felt happier. I felt at peace. And also because in my faith, you have to, you know, walk by faith, which is meaning you have no idea what you're doing, but you're trusting that it's going to work out. So it's kind of like, you have faith that your car is going to crank up. Because, I mean, you expect your car to crank up whenever you put the keys in the ignition and turn the key. You expect your car to crank. Sometimes it doesn't always crank for, whatever reason. It was just kind of like that for me. Like, I had the faith, like, I felt the peace that I needed, and I started to feel a little better. Now, the anxiety that crippled me, where I was just like pretty much scared to leave the house, and I felt like it didn't even feel like anybody was like out to get me. It just felt like, it's almost like I was looking through the window and I would see everyone having fun, and I felt like I wanted that so bad, but it felt like it was just something holding me back inside, which was fear. And I still don't know where that fear came from. But what also helped me get through fear was actually after I felt like that release from depression, anxiety, and all the things that were holding me back was getting a job, because I never had a job, and I was kind of like socially awkward, which I still have moments like that. But working a job actually helped me get out of my anxiety of people, because I had to do it. Like, I was getting paid. I was a cashier. So I was getting paid to, check people out, obviously at the grocery store. And I was getting paid for that, and I had to interact with people. And the more I did it, the more I became, you know, the anxiety started to release, because I think my anxiety was dealing with people. I don't know. I guess I was scared to, that my past was maybe going to come back and haunt me. Maybe I was going to run into some of the people that I had to deal with in Georgia in high school. I'm like, I'm a grown woman. So once I started, and I also had to change my thinking process. I had to start thinking positive, because if you think negative and you just sit in those depressive thoughts and anxiety, and you just let it overtake you, that's what's going to come out of you. What's inside of you is going to come out. So if you're depressed, it's gonna show, it's gonna come out. So if you start thinking positive and manifesting positive thoughts, and just start doing the things that you always have wanted to do, and quit worrying about other people, because at the end of the day, it's your life. No one else is living your life for you but you. And I can only do what's best for me, because no one else is living my life. No one else has walked in my shoes. And so at the end of the day, again, make sure you take care of yourself first. And so during that time, that helped me get through my anxiety. And then I was able to soar once I started changing my own mind and started thinking like, I can't worry about other people, because, everyone is different. And I finally made it through that. I felt like I could make it through anything. And that doesn't mean that I don't still struggle with anxiety. I just know how to combat it now. So I hope this story kind of helped you guys out, or you can share this story with someone else that may be going through depression and anxiety and cutting or even suicidal thoughts. Because I also struggled with suicidal thoughts, but I can address that further in another video. But I just wanted to come on here and just tell you guys that I'm going to go in and take a shower, because I'm sweating so bad right now. Thank you guys. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.